Welcome to Poor Culture. Poor Culture is a digital faith community for the exiled, for people who are done with performance religion, but not done with seeking God. You are welcome here, exactly as you arrive. A brief note before we begin. Scripture emerged from particular people in particular cultures, speaking particular languages, living inside particular moments in history. Because of that, biblical texts sometimes carry gendered language, familial images, and cultural assumptions that can feel complicated or painful, depending on what you've lived through. When those words appear in these sermons, they are used to honor the text and its context, not to elevate one gender, identity, or culture above another, not to exclude anyone the text was never meant to exclude. The goal of these sermons is not agreement, it's honest engagement. To think carefully, to listen well, to wrestle with real questions, and to remain open to the possibility that God may still be speaking, even here, even now, even to you. I dropped my AirPod in the toilet. A ridiculous way to start a sermon, I know, but stay with me. See, the AirPod was now gone, but what surprised me was that I still felt it in my ear. Hours later, my hand would reach for it. My attention would look for it. My body behaved as though it were still in my ear. The object had disappeared, the habit had not. In standing there, I had an uncomfortable thought. What if this is how idolatry actually works? Because most of us imagine idols as things, statues, golden calves, ancient people bowing to carved images. But what if the real danger was never the object? What if the real danger was what the object trained you to become? Because culture, you can destroy an idol and still carry its shape inside you. You can leave Egypt and still think like a slave. You can leave the tower and still be reaching. You can put down the phone and still be unable to be still. You can quit the job and still believe your worth comes from productivity. The idol is gone, the worship remains. And I wonder if that is the real crisis of our age. Not that we built machines, not even that we trust machines, but that we are slowly becoming like the things we've built. Always available, always productive, always responsive, always on. And if that is true, then Sabbath is not about rest. Sabbath is about remembering that you were never supposed to live that way. We've been on this road together. Sermon 1, image bearers are forgetting the image. Sermon 2, when the image bearers forget the image, they start building towers. Image 3, when the tower gets tall enough, they start calling it holy. Sermon 4, when the tower starts to fall, they don't know who they are without it. And now Sermon 5, even after the tower falls, the tower is still inside them. That is the progression Psalm 115 warned us about, and most of us skipped right on past it. See, we read the part about the idols having mouths but cannot speak, and eyes and cannot see, and ears that cannot hear. We read all of that and we nodded. Some of us felt superior to the ancient people in their carved statues. And then we missed the line that was meant for us. Those who make them will be like them. Not worship them, become like them. That is the warning. You become like what you orient your life around. When people worship power, they become power hungry. When people worship wealth, they become transactional. When people worship productivity, they become producers who cannot stop producing. And when the thing you orient your life around never rests, never pauses, never ceases, you will feel the wrongness of your own rest. You will reach for the AirPod that isn't there. You will feel guilty for stopping. You will call your stillness laziness. You will call your limits weakness. You will mistake the machine's rhythm for the right rhythm. And God has been interrupting that mistake since the beginning. See, the serpent said, "You will be like God." Babel said, "Nothing will be impossible for us." The golden calf said, "Here's a God who will go before us, one we can see and touch and manage." And every idol underneath every generation has said the same thing in a different language. You do not have limits. Limits are weaknesses. Rest is falling behind. Stillness is failure. The ones who stop are the ones who lose. Keep building, keep reaching, keep proving. That is the voice of every tower ever constructed. And it is the logic of the machine. See, the machine never sleeps. The machine never pauses. The machine never needs a Sabbath. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, always processing, always generating, always responding. And if we're honest, a part of us admires that. A part of us wishes we could do the same. A part of us has already started trying. But to the question, the same question underneath all these sermons, do we still remember who we are? Because here's what Egypt did to Israel that was harder to undo than the chains. Egypt taught them the rhythm. Bricks, more bricks, always bricks. No enough, no limit, no Sabbath. And God brought them out, parted the sea of chaos, drowned the army in it, fed them in the wilderness, and still they carried Egypt in their bodies. They still reached for the rhythm that had enslaved them. Because that is what formation does. Formation is deeper than belief. See, you can believe you are free and still move like a slave. You can believe your worth is not in your productivity and still feel the panic when you stop producing. You can believe the machine is just a tool and still become like it. Available, optimized, restless, always on. The question is not what you believe about rest. The question is whether your body knows it's free. Whether your nervous system has been told the news, whether the habit has caught up to the theology. That is what Sabbath is actually for. Let's look at our text, Genesis 2, 1-3. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. But the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all work of creating that he had done. Let me tell you what's happening here that we often miss. First, God does not rest because God is tired. The Psalms are clear. The God of Israel never sleeps nor slumbers. God is not exhausted. God is not burned out. God is not recovering from the effort of creation. God rests because the work is complete. And that distinction is everything. Because we rest when we collapse. We rest when we have nothing left. We rest as a last resort, when the body finally forces the issue and we have no choice. God rests from fullness, from completion, from the satisfaction of a thing done well. God looks at everything that has been made, and instead of immediately starting a new project, God stops. God delights. God refuses the temptation to keep moving. And that refusal, that holy, deliberate, chosen stopping, is what God then gives to human beings as a gift. The second thing, the first thing God makes holy is not a place or a person. It's a day. Not the garden, not the mountain, not the temple. A day. Time itself is the first sanctuary. Before there are priests, before there are altars, before there are sacred spaces, there is sacred time. And what makes it sacred is not what happens in it. What makes it sacred is what doesn't happen in it. No production, no building, no achieving, no proving. The day is holy because it is empty of those things. That is a revolutionary theology in a world that measures everything by output. The most sacred thing on a calendar produces nothing. And God says, this is what holiness looks like. And the third thing, Sabbath in Exodus 20 is explicitly connected to liberation. Exodus 28-11, the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. And then the reason. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. But go to Deuteronomy 5, the second giving of the commandments. Same commandment, different reason. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. In Exodus, remember creation. In Deuteronomy, remember liberation. Sabbath holds both. You rest because God rested, and you rest because you are no longer a slave. Every Sabbath is a declaration. I am not Pharaoh's. My time is not the empire's. My body is not a production unit. I am free. And in an age of a machine that never stops, in an age of a system that wants your attention every hour of every day, in an age of an economy that has figured out how to make your rest productive, Sabbath is still a declaration. I am not the machines. Here's what I want you to understand about the machine. The machine is not evil. I said this before and I will keep saying it. The machine is a tool. But Psalms 115 is not warning about evil things. It is warning about formative things, the things that shape you, the things that you orient yourself around, the things that set the rhythm of your days, because rhythm is formation. And we have allowed the machine to set the rhythm. The notification tells you when to look up. The algorithm tells you what matters. The feed tells you what to feel. The platform tells you when you are relevant and when you are not. And slowly, without announcing itself, the machine's rhythm becomes our rhythm. Always checking, always responding, always available, always producing, always reaching for the AirPod that isn't there. And here's what the Sabbath interrupts. Not just the work, the rhythm. The formation, the slow becoming like what you worship that happens below the level of conscious choice. Sabbath says 1 day a week. The machine does not set the rhythm. 1 day a week. You remember whose rhythm you were made for. Not the algorithm, not the markets, not the pharaohs, not the machine. God's. And God's rhythm has rest built into it. Not as a concession to human weakness, as a feature, as a declaration that the world does not depend on your constant intervention. As a reminder that you are a creature and creatures were never meant to carry the burden of being God. So let me go back to the AirPod, because what struck me in the moment was not the loss, it was the reach. Hours later, hand moving towards something that was gone. Body still organized around an absence. And I thought, how long have I been doing this with things I can't even name? How long has my nervous system been organized around a rhythm I didn't choose? How long have I been reaching for productivity like it was an AirPod in my ear? Anticipating the call, waiting for validation, staying available for demand that might never come. Because somewhere along the way, my body learned that this is what faithfulness looks like. And God has been saying gently, then not so gently, pull it down, or in my case, flush it down. Not because the work was bad, because the work is not God. Not because the machine is evil, because you are becoming like it. And you were not made in the image of the machine. You were made in the image of the one who looked at everything that was made and stopped and said it was good. Before anything else was added, before the next project, before the optimization, before the improvement, it was already good. You were already good. Not when you finish, not when you produce enough, not when the platform notices, not when the algorithm rewards you. Already. The same way the seventh day was already holy, not because of what happened in it, because who declared it. God declared the rest holy. God declared you worthy of rest, not after, now. Can you receive that? Can your body receive that? Can the part of you that is still reaching for the AirPod that isn't there, can that part of you finally put your hand down? Because the call you have been anticipating, the validation you've been waiting for, the voice that was supposed to tell you that you are enough, it already came. It came before the machine. It came before the tower. It came before empire, before Pharaoh taught you how to count bricks, before the algorithm taught you to count likes. It came in the beginning and it said, it is good. You are good. Now rest. Rest. This week, not forever, just once. Stop before you are empty. Stop while there is still something left. Stop not because you finished, but because you are free. And sit in the silence long enough to notice what reaches, what your hand looks for, what your attention hunts, what voice rises to tell you that stopping is wrong. Listen to that voice carefully. It is not God's voice, and you do not have to obey it anymore. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Amen. Ashe. Shalom.